Cool. Mike died. So let's just start over from the beginning. The music heard was from Maple Story, owned by Nexon. Give it a shout out, give it a play. Everything else. Back to this. We have the killer for the day being this that isn't even actually popping up on screen. Bum, 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 bum. There we go. The uncaged licensed killer from League of Legends. Yeah, either notifications are delayed, you can get one per day. Makes sense. Makes sense. But as I was trying to say, before my mic died and the stream audio and all of that wasn't popped up. Yep, last was Fiddlesticks. Now we're at the Uncaged. With these Liege, I cannot speak now. League of Legend killers. They're based off a monthly subscription that people play to keep up with League of Legends and all of that. Like World of Warcraft. Well, I guess it's technically free to play, but you know what I mean. If you ain't paying money in League of Legends, you're not going to really get very far very quickly. Money goes far in League of Legends, like World of Warcraft and all of that, I guess is what I should say. Like any other game, it has, you know, your basic free, very slow leveling, and then it has the high rise, you know, you buy this, you go up. You know, the passes and all of that style of like, you know, pay to win type thing. A lot of games have it. It is what it is. It's just one of those. So, in order to pull one of its killers and bring it over the Dead by Daylight, it's going to cost Behavior a fortune and a half. Because they're going to keep coming back and saying, oh, well, pay us money. 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 League of Legends, yes, it's a decent game for those who play it and all of that, but it also is based off capitalization. Once the money stops flowing, the game will probably close its servers and all of that, despite having, you know, continuous people and everything else playing it. But as long as popular streamers keep playing it, you know, and they keep staying funded and things like that, it'll stay up. But I mean, as with most other games. Well, I can't even say that because most other games actually keep their servers open. I'm pretty sure there's still old Halo servers still open for previous games that people still play on to this day. Back when SOCOM was a thing, they had their servers, even when their game was, for the most part, dead. They kept their servers on for a long, long, long amount of time. I played that shit until it died. Literally, ride or die. But anyway, I don't play League of Legends like that. I've only played it like 3 or 4 times throughout the entirety of its thing. Um, I do say this is more than what I was expecting from somebody who only has 5 posts, but I'm still not surprised. um, the Uncaged. Tall height, 32 meters. Tear radius, 4.6 movement speed. There's all the lore and all of that. Weapon, augmented claws. Power, blood hunter. Whenever a survivor is injured by any means, the Uncaged begins blood hunt for 30 seconds. Why does blood hunt sound familiar? I feel like I recently did a creation review over somebody who had a power called blood hunt. Was it you, Galanonim? There was other concept than fiddlesticks in this werewolf. Yes. There was the genie looking guy from League of Legends. I did one on him too. There was Fiddlesticks, the genie looking guy, and this guy. Heretic Hunt. Ah, close. The Uncaged lets out a loud howl, alerting all survivors in the trial. I've seen this before. Yes, this is an ode concept that's been posted before that has updated portions to it. I can see that some of the numbers have changed. This infinite duress has been added to that particular thing that I've seen before. But the rest of this is basically the same. This isn't the first time that I've seen this. Well, then why waste time on it? Again, I ain't been doing reviews here recently because there ain't a lot of content. And some of these are kind of not the greatest. So how about we just hop back in and we do part 2 of your chapter concept. We left off here. Actually, let me go back in. So from this, we got the Withering status effect. Once you're withered in 12 seconds, you will fall over and go into the dying state. There is no way to essentially block Withering. So once it is in, it's going to happen. Like, it's just a matter of when you fall over, not if. 12 seconds is the main thing to remember about that. And then the Astray limits the vision of a survivor. And as long as you're in this thick fog, you have the blindness status effect. So those are the two things that I gotta remember about when I'm going over the killer. Besides that, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that's all I need to remember. Gotcha. The killer is my computer is, oh, it's my controller making my computer scroll on its own. Oh my god, this controller. Please, I'm just gonna unplug it. There you go. The killer is the Phantom. Appearance, the Phantom is a skeleton cloaked in crimson robes. Fog of the dark green and black color emits from him, and his eyes are glowing red. Instead of walking, he levitates, leaving some smoke behind him. Reading that kind of reminds me of the Dark Soul 3 boss. I had their names in my brain, and then they just immediately went away. Where you had to kill the skeleton with the glowing red eyes and all of that to take its health down. I don't remember the name of that boss. That's what that reminds me of. Killer lore. So how do you like our headquarters so far? The underground is huge. How are you able to get to the toilet in time? Those from catacombs. Yup. Yup. You know, teleportation magic and that kind of stuff. I seriously can't tell today when you were joking, mate. By the way, is this place always so empty? Most of our Foundation members are away on a recruit mission. Recruit mission? Don't tell me such a huge and powerful organization has a people shortage. Keith has trembled. Or Gaza has trembled. Alex. Oh, Gaza, are you okay? Yes, yes, just. Remember when I told you about my father? That he wanted you to continue your family business? Well, you see, this foundation is apparently our family business. Oh. My father and his father were both respectable members of this organization. My father was even a previous leader. Whoa, I see. That's why they contacted you. Wait, what do you mean by saying he was? My father died during the Second Civil War. That happened a year ago while they had to deal with Foundation members that gone mad. I'm sorry to hear that. It's only our third headquarters. The first one was in Paris, but after the First Civil War, it was moved to Venice. And how did you end up in Hungary? During World War II, Nazi Germany's Research Institute, my lord, at an Irby? Somehow learned about our organization and wanted to borrow a few things. Volnir? Ah, with the golden rings on his arms and all of that. Yeah, Volnir. Um. Wanted to buy a few things for us, but that's a story for another time. You see, Alex, I have shown you already the profits of joining our foundation, but do you truly know the risk? Oh, it makes me a little scared hearing that from you. Good, because you're about to see something terrifying. Hello, Mr. Kramer. Was he talking about this guy? You have finally dragged your friend here, I see. Alex, this is Dr. Roman Kramer. Or Kramer. He's our current leader. Hi, Doc. Hi, Chief. How delightful. Yep, he was talking about him. Wait, just for verification purposes, is it Kramer or is it Kramer? Just so I get this right. One for Kramer, two for Kramer, three for you're wrong on both accounts. One Kramer, gotcha. All right, Mr. Kramer, I've brought Alex here too. Now there's a Roman. We both know why you brought him here. It was Gaza. So not to spoil the surprise for our new member. Takes curtain off. The skeleton-looking figure lying on the bed is connected to life-sustaining apparatus. Holy shit! Do you keep an undead here too? Keep your mouth shut and show some respect to the older members. Older members? This is Sir Jean Pierre Gullix? I want to say Gullix because of Maple Story. Gillix? Gillix? Gullo? Well, the Loux could be a bunch of different things. It could be Gallo, Gullio, Gullix. Hmm. Gillix? Gillix sounds better. Could be Gillo. I don't know. I'll call him something. And despite his appearance, he's 38 years old. 38 years old. Alex, the last year's Civil War wasn't about taking over the Foundation. Some dickhead persuaded a good member of people on his side and convinced him to break a fundamental rule of this world. He wanted to become immortal alongside them. Immortal, you'll say. How is this even possible? Through many years of our search, we have found thousands of records from different locations and times in history of mankind that depict death-breaking rituals that grant immortality. One of those rituals, by any chance, have to deal with a golden apple? Those records were written on various materials from paper and stone to even human skin. From what we learned, those rituals usually end up in failure, cursing people who executed them. They suffered the worst possible fate with their wish of immortality granted, but alongside with lost mind and stricken freedom, bound only to be specters. We call those people, those being phantoms, those who were cursed by death. Alex being speechless. Raymond Foss? Guess it could be Fosse. The one responsible for starting the Civil War was taking care of all of our discoveries about such rituals. He was a man committed and focused only on his work, a full-blooded rationalist. Nobody expected that his commitment wouldn't turn into an obsession that would drive him to commit such a heretic ritual for his personal gains. Hey, immortality for research has been one of the biggest taboos that has been committed. People dying, cursing themselves so they can just have more time. The closer they get to an answer, the more they're committed to finishing their work. It happens. Blah, blah, blah. If those rituals cursed all those who conducted them, then he was pretty aware of that. Then why does he decide to perform one of them? After a relentless study, he claimed that he has found a reason why the previous rituals failed, and thus, full of himself, he decided to recreate that, but thanks to Sir Jean, we are aware of the outcome. Well, he obviously failed, since he's been dealt with. That was sadness. Everything just fell in my room. Oh well, I'll pick it up later. He succeeded. What? But you were victorious, right? How have you dealt with him and his colleagues if he gained that immortality? We didn't deal with him, but rather the laws of the universe did. Ah, the entity taking it, huh? Once again, what? You, the universe, have bestowed upon us a few fundamental laws that cannot be broken. You cannot cheat death and be immortal without repercussions. For example, the need to feast upon the life of others. Oh, nope. It's not even pulling the entity. Like the vampires, precisely. His ritual for the first time in his human history was successful, but breaking the fundamental law has summoned those who have failed previously. He taught us that even if the ritual you are able to avoid the curse of death, you cannot live or you cannot avoid all of the consequences. Breaking the death itself has summoned many phantoms from the past rituals. So it does confirm the death as an entity and a part of our outer world. Ah. I told you already, it's rather the very being of the universe that created those laws is responsible for it rather than death itself. However, you can easily mistake phantoms for a Grim Reaper of some sort. And those phantoms killed all the members from both sides of the conflict. They come from a thick fog, revealed themselves one by one, as you can judge from Sir Jean's case. They drained the life from their victim's body, and even the soul. When they appeared, their mere presence caused overwhelming distress. Each of them was wielding a scythe that slashed through all the people like butter, but surprisingly, that slash didn't kill the victim immediately. Alright. Look here, boxes. You guys need to move. Luckily, none of that shit broke open like I thought it was going to. So that's a quick cleanup. No harm, no foul, I suppose. Slide these over here. There we go. The human body that was hit by the scythe rapidly aged to the point that even bones became mere dust. Bone meal. Foundation members tried to protect themselves, but all ended up in vain. Those creatures seem immune to all the methods we have used, and we have tried from magical to non-magical ones. Sergine only escaped by teleporting himself to the circle he earlier prepared. But even though he did it swiftly, one of the phantom scythes barely pierced his side before he teleported, and you can see that even that graze caused him to wither in a short period of time, to the point you see him now. You said that they also drained the victim's life from its soul. What do you mean? From what Sergine told us, they seem to absorb the essence resembling the soul from the human body. Holy sling! Those monsters are bling up. That's one way to put it. But we, as the Nostradamus Foundation, shouldn't waste this information that we have gained thanks to the sacrifice of many of our members. One day we shall discover a method to deal with them, but now we should restore our organization to its former glory. Have you heard me well, guys? Geyser. I've called him a different name every time I've said his name. I've went from Gaza to Giza to Geyser. Gaza. Yes, I understand it. Istvan was a dear friend of mine. Computer, please, stop. Istvan was a dear friend of mine. If there is something I can do for him, it would educate you well and shape you into the next leader. A noble cause, huh? I know, right? I've called that poor man everything but his actual name. You should have one to teach you, or one to teach your friends some basics and some manners. We can skip that part. I am well known for my good manners. How delightful. Weapon, being a scythe. Killer speed, 4.6 meters per second. Playstyle, this is a strategic killer that requires some preparation. So I'd assume, like corrupt intervention, giving you that couple of minutes of activation. Would be good for this killer. I have to ask, what do you think about this short story as a lore? I think that it hooked well together. You can tell that you actually took the time to think and bring the story to where it was going. However, implementing that into Dead by Daylight, it'll probably have to be shortened. But I mean, I like the story, but lore wise, I doubt anybody's gonna wanna read through all of that particular lore. We are in 2022, and a lot of kids and impatient adults exist. But I liked it, especially if it was just thought up off the top of your head, because that's pretty impressive. You could probably turn that into an actual book series. It's not bad. His Soul Reaper is, oh, you're welcome. His Soul Reaper is hard to land without the help of his other ability, the Sickening Mist of Night. That's why placing the Veil of Mist in convenient places is key to victory. The Veil of Mist can help your Soul Reaper surprise the survivors with its attack, even through the walls. That's disgusting. The Killer Kit encourages this kind of combination. The Sickening Mist of Night can hide your presence from survivors' eyes, but also punish the survivors that lack map knowledge. And even experienced survivors can make a mistake when they are uncertain about what's ahead of them. I would make sure to send you free copy. Hell yeah. It should better be signed too, goddammit. Ah. Is this just saying the abilities as part of like a subtext? Or is there something that's going to be added here later? Because if this is just showing, if this is like the subtext for abilities and everything is, under this, well, I guess these would be subtext and this would be the primary thing, the heading. I would change this heading to another font to show its significance. You can kind of, alright. So yeah, you can like capitalize abilities or use another heading or something like that. Because that being looking the same as basically the power looks the same makes me go, what? Is there something here? No, no. Doing something simple is just changing the heading or capitalizing all of that or underlining it or something just to show that it's a thing. And also probably getting rid of the colon marks to show that something else comes after it might help as well. Yeah, too much space. It's not anything that like needs to like 100% be fixed, but it does make you wonder like did something get cut off here? Anyway, moving on. Power Soul Reaper. After pressing holding the power button for 4 seconds, huh? Interesting. You're able to perform an 8 meters range semicircle slash. 4 seconds though. Hmm. Well, let me finish reading this and I'll go back. This slash can wound multiple survivor and inflicts a broken status effect for 30 seconds. Ah, I see. Survivors can see that you're using a Soul Reaper by your animation and the expanding fog that indicates the range of your slash. Soul Reaper can be used mid-air. After using Soul Reaper, it has 20 seconds of cooldown. A successful hit on a survivor shortens the, I assume, cooldown for 5 seconds for each survivor. Gotcha. I now see the understanding of the playstyle and happen to use your secondary ability to get this attack off. It's extremely powerful, damaging multiple survivors and inflicting the broken status effect. However, 4 seconds of charge time means that you're not going to be able to just walk up, charge this, and actually hit a survivor. It does go through walls, which kind of helps you out a little bit, but you're not going to be able to walk up to a survivor and then slash and hit them. That 4 seconds of charge time, it'll let the survivors go 16 meters, and it only hits half of that. So you would need to be essentially undetectable, stand behind a wall where a generator is mounted, and try to catch survivors that way. And even still, with the fog, clearing, they'll still be alerted, and if they're paying attention, be able to move out of the way. Now, there are some maps that have areas the where they are put up against corners and things like that, and this slash is going to be very hard to avoid. For instance, in Midwich, that little corner area out in the courtyard in the middle that has the 2 pallets and the tower that you can run around. If anybody goes back there, they're taking that L. But I mean, technically, anybody running down the hallway, if the killer can see them, they can slash and hit them through the wall and all of that as well. So it has its uses. And if you plan carefully and keep survivors moving in a particular direction, you can hit survivors through walls on specific maps. Gideon Meat Plant's a very good example for that. If they can walk over and get that slash through many of the walls that don't open until the generator's complete, if they don't react in time, I can see uses for this particular ability. Hmm. I don't really know what to say about it. It seems pretty well balanced. The one thing I guess I will ask is, while you are charging up this particular ability, are you able to move? And if you are, how fast do you move? You are not able to move. Then yeah, it's just kind of damn. Because it has something in there that shows survivors that the particular attack is happening. So, I mean, if a survivor is just kind of chilling out there, hmm, the only thing I might add, just to kind of make it semi fair, but this is as of now, again, I haven't read the rest of it now, is I would add maybe like a chain sound effect or something like that, or some sort of effect that lets you know when the killer is charging up their attack. It can be map wide heard like the chainsaw, or it can be something that's, omnidirectional. It can be something that's, able to be, grabbed or anything like that. If not, instead of allowing the fog to expand, just have the fog always just, as soon as you hold the button down, have it at its max range. Because the only problem I see on the other side of that is it makes sense for the killer side to see the range of the attack by holding the scythe button and seeing, the fog expand. But if you think about the survivor side of that, as you're expanding the fog, if you're behind a wall, the survivor won't necessarily see the fog expanding until they're within the strike zone. So I'd say that this needs some sort of preemptive sound that lets people know that the killer is charging up their attack. It doesn't have to be anything like spectacular. Like, for example, the Huntress, when she's pulling out a hatchet, she goes, huh? And that's about the end of that. It just kind of needs something. And that's a very minute thing. I was thinking of sound, but thought that the fog indicator will do a job. It does a great job for the killer, because the killer knows, the range of what it's hitting and all of that. But I think about being a survivor and seeing this fog, expand out from under me. And by the time I see the fog expanding, it's too late. Because if you think about the killer standing in front of the survivor and trying to charge this attack for the 4 seconds and all of that, then it's fine. If the killer sees or the survivors are looking at the killer, it makes sense to have the expanding fog because both are know the indicators and all of that and how far they need to go, etc., etc. But if you're hiding behind a wall trying to get this attack in, you literally aren't going to know that the attack's happening until the attack's happening. You're going to be working on a generator. Next thing you know, the fog under you disappears and you're hit before you can even really react to it. Is the only issue I see there. So just a very soft time. I mean, it ain't even got to be a sound. It could be something as simple as, the fog changing a different color and then expanding. So if survivors don't pay attention to the slight change in the color of the fog before it starts disappearing and all of that, I mean, there could be any type of thing. It can be a hearing indicator, it can be a sound indicator, or it's going to be a sound indicator. It can be something that you look at. It can be something on the map that changes. I mean, you can have all kinds of different indicators that something's happening. But I think it does need some sort of indication. But like I said, that's very minute. And that's something that's going to have to be looked at through public test beta and all of that. To see if it actually 100% needs it. But I mean, it's minor. Besides that, and that's me, thinking very hard about that. That's the only thing that I could really see. 20 seconds cooldown is fine. 4 second build up is completely fine. Things like that are for the most part fine. The only issue I would probably have with this is add-on wise. If your add-ons decrease that too much, then that could be an issue. But I mean, we're talking towards the top of the add-ons to decrease any of time off of that. You don't want to decrease a large amount of time off of that. Knocking a little bit off of it ain't bad. But a lot, that's... Ooh. This hits 8 meters. So to give a survivor a chance to escape, the survivor should at least be able to move out of the way before that swing happens. So if you are going to decrease the number of times to charge up via add-on, you definitely need to add in some sort of negative, being, a loud chime or a laugh or something that happens so survivors have reaction time to keep it fair and balanced. But that's talking about something that'll happen in the future. So I'm not going to go there for the moment. You'll go to the special ability. Sickening Mist of Night. Press the active ability button to create thick veils of mist that confuses the senses of survivors and reduces their vision. It also depends how visible that as well. It should be easily seen or on charge. The fog should be easily seen. Yes, unless you're running like an iridescent add-on, which is still kind of questionable. It should definitely be easy to be seen with no add-ons or just base. Also, actually, I'll wait. You can place up to 5 veils of mist. Each veil of mist takes 3 by 3 meters of space. Hmm. Sickening Mist of Night does not have a cooldown, but after placing a mist, you have to wait 15 seconds for it to show up. Honestly, I would make it about the size of a hag trap. That about the range of that when you place them down. Because, I mean, if I think about keeping survivors in check and using this mist to sneak up on them and do things like that, the area that a hag trap keeps up, or takes up, that area, that space of that radius, makes a lot of sense of something you can go off of. Then obviously would have to be tweaked, public test beta, all of that other stuff to actually get a correct size. 3 by 3 might be fine, but the only thing that I can think of that's close to an activation like that would be the Hag's Trap. When somebody goes within that activation distance. Because it's just enough to where if somebody hits it, you can flip over and teleport and immediately lunge attack and hit them if you're quick enough. But it's also, far enough to where, you can see them and have time to react to them. So I don't know. I don't know the exact range of a hag trap though, because it might be something ridiculous, but it seems like right about that would be great. Now, placing it down and waiting for 15 seconds for it to show up is interesting, because that's about enough time for a survivor to run a loop, ragged, and then leave. So you really do have to place this mist early in order to get any value out of it. You can't place it during a chase and hope to pull any value out of it. If a survivor enters the Veil of Mist, he gains the Astray status effect that lasts 10 seconds after he has left the Veil of Mist. When the Phantom enters the Veil of Mist, his Soul Reaper fog indicator cannot be seen by the survivors. Yep, you have to spend some time on prep, exactly. Yep. So Corrupt Intervention would actually be a very good perk to run with them. Interesting. Now, obviously not at least listed thus far. The smoke indicators or all of that can't be placed next to, or shouldn't be able to be placed next to hooks, and probably shouldn't be able to be placed near generators, at least within X amount of vicinity. But definitely hooks. I think that would be kind of bullshit to be able to place the mist right next to a hook and be able to essentially blind a survivor that's running into the mist. Because you know what's going to happen next. That person's just going to walk in or walk near and then charge up that attack. By the time the unhooking and all of that happens, that swing's going to come, either injuring or knocking down one survivor or activating the borrowed time, slash the other effect from the other perk that survivor has. But now I can see why you incorporated that particular perk for that survivor using the other method, because the killer kinda can do some scumbaggy things if they show up at the right time. I still hold my initial opinion that a survivor trading when a killer's nearby, especially one that has an AoE attack, should still be punished. However, this is very arguable when it comes to that AoE attack, that you're probably going to need some sort of protection, per se. But I like the sort of balances that we talked about yesterday. What I would love behavior to do is change the borrowed time, the way it activates, and just have it protect one of you instead of just specifically the person being unhooked, and it wouldn't be that big of an issue. But the fact that borrowed time's in play makes other perks that want to try to do the same thing create issues. Because if they just change borrowed time's wording to say, the first person that goes down between the two, the unhooky and the person that's hooking, gets the endurance status effect, and the other one's just kind of shit out of luck, it wouldn't be as bad. But because borrowed time literally only protects the person getting unhooked, even though decisive strike is a thing for that issue. Yeah, so the one who gets hit after rescue gets borrowed time. Basically, both of them have a shared timer of like, I don't know, 8 to 10 seconds, as opposed to one person who gets unhooked having 12 seconds or 15 seconds. I think it'd be better off giving both of them the same amount for 8 seconds, so whoever the killer decides to hit, the other person gets to run away. So it doesn't matter. And since borrow time only activates after the unhook, if that person does elect to try and trade or anything like that, they're just basically farming that other person. So if that person doesn't have decisive strike or anything like that, then it's kinda is what it is. Or you're gonna have to make it to where those two perks, one overrides the other one, as opposed to letting them both activate at the same time. One takes precedence and eats the activation of the other one. So you would have to add in a line that some sort of line that dictates, or after it, that it overrides the activation of borrowed time. So if you somehow ran that particular perk and borrowed time together, whichever one of those perks activates first, the other one would no longer activate. That would be an R8 thing. That would still guarantee an activation of one of the two perks, but you won't get both of them. Hmm. The easiest way to incorporate that would be to incorporate a new status effect, or to add to your previous status effect, and make it to where somebody that has that particular status effect, it nullifies the active and helpful effects of other perks. So, for example, what was it, a stray? No, withering. So for example, and I don't know if this would fuck up its interactions with other perks. I'm just saying something off the top of my head. It'll have to be looked at farther down the road. So anybody with the withering status effect, aka if you take a survivor off of the hook and the killer hits you and you get that endurance effect. If you have the withering effect, any perk activations that would happen during that wither effect are deactivated. Now, this would prevent you from using Dead Hard. This would prevent you from using borrowed time, and it'll prevent you from using any other type of activation perks, like Smash Hit or anything like that. Would be the negative side of that, but then the positive side would be you're not stacking borrowed time and withering together. Obviously, I'm spitballing. There's probably a better way to incorporate that without deactivating other perks, activations, and all of that. Because I mean, it would deactivate basically every other perk that you have. So any perk that getting hit while unhooking and going into that withered state, everything would be deactivated. No windows of opportunity, no deception, none of those perks would work because you are withering, aka your body is kind of falling apart at that particular moment. Or you can just write it specifically for borrowed time. When this, when withered, all cases of borrowed time or any other perks that stack well with it will not activate. Or on vice versa, if the other survivor has any type of effect, this effect won't activate. But then on the flip side of that, things like second wind, if the other survivor has an activation for that, the wither effect will not activate for you and you'll end up going down anyway from that hit. So, you know, it's kind of a who do you screw over at that point? Do you bind it to the withering effect to deactivate future perks, or do you leave it to the other survivor to not have any other perks to heal them or anything like that active at the time? That would make sense if it still worked after the unhooking, but I don't know what on other scenarios we talked yesterday, like with certain healing percentage. Oh no, it all still work with the certain healing percentages and things like that. You can still do it the same way to cause the perk to activate. It's just when that perk activates, it's going to take out any of the other effects that you would have initially. So let's say you give the other person borrowed time and all of that, and you sit under the hook and you heal them. As soon as you get to that 75% healing, their borrowed time immediately cancels, and then your perk cannibalizes the end of their perk, and then you get the protection. So as you're healing them, you're essentially stealing some of the, I guess, life or life force or perk force, entity power, whatever you want to call it, from them as you're healing them to activate your perk. Sacrificing their blood to the blood gods to get a boon off of it. But doing that takes away their power, or something along the lines of that. But there's a lot of ways you can go with that too, because you can make it to where you get the healing protection, but the person you unhook gets some sort of negative associated with it as well. Nothing like drastic, because I mean, tunneling is still an issue, so you're not going to be able to slow them down or anything like that. But I mean, giving them, something significant like the oblivious status effect and blindness status effect in exchange for, your little bit of withering effect, which is the temporary protection, might work too. Because if they can't hear the killer's terror radius or anything like that, that killer has the ability to take them down if take them down again if they're not careful. Or if you're pulling them off of a hook and somebody else goes down, they won't be able to assist their other teammates. So on and so forth. I don't know. There's so many balancing things that you can do when it comes to implementing a new status effect, especially too, that it'll make your head spin. There's things that we haven't even thought of that could probably go in with either of these to make them even better than what they are. It's just kind of you got to sit there and kind of write down every state at which this perk can be or perk status effect can be implemented. To do that, you would either have to have a master guide of every action of Dead by Daylight and match your withering and a stray effect with them, or you can just watch somebody like Nado's Darva or Probes for your killer and survival games, and then think about it. Well, he pallet stunned that person there and took a hit, and went down into the dying state. I could give the withering effect here. Would it be balanceable? Something like that. Being a game creator, especially a programmer, sucks. Programming sucks. It pays a lot, but it can pay a lot, but it sucks. And we're getting into programming when we're talking about status effects. So there is 1,000 times more things you have to look at when you're incorporating them. But either way, let us move on. The mist, when they don't have a stray, that mist is, whoo. Yeah, programming is too chaotic for me. You and me both. When I was running Lua and making maps and stuff on Roblox and programming things to do other funny things, I realized that I respect programmers a lot, and that's something that I never want to do. I remember my parents saying, "You spend so much time on PC, why don't you become one?" That's the one thing that parents don't necessarily understand. I know they're saying it in jest to kind of, pick fun at you and kind of say, "Hey, you're spending too much time on the PC and all of that." But like, just because that you spend a large amount of time on PC doesn't necessarily mean you would be great working on them, because you have no experience in what you're doing, you know? Getting on a website and clicking on a link is completely different than looking at, the source code of something and programming and, going in and coding everything and, you know, me playing video games or something. And oh, well, why don't you become somebody? Why don't you go and create video games and all of that? It's like creating video games ain't fun. Being a video game tester ain't fun. We play video games to as a coping mechanism and try to relieve stress. When you add a job title on top of it, all it does is create stress. You're taking something that you play to relieve stress and you're adding stress to it. Hell, I don't even enjoy the video games that I play half of the time anymore, to be honest with you. But I mean, anybody watching the streams, especially Rocket League streams, can easily see that. It's not very enjoyable, but it's just something to fill the time gap. Or until I find something else. You should do a single player break. I've thought about doing like another Phoenix Point run through and just recording it, things like that. I really have. But generally, single player breaks and things like that don't really work for me because I mean, I grew up playing games. Video games has been my thing. And now that I've gotten older, I've gotten it mostly out of my system. Like, I'm not a very avid gamer, and I won't find myself, trying hard to actually win at a game. I'm just kind of like, yep, that happened. Somebody talks shit to me. I'm not gonna get competitive and then, try my ass off to try to beat them at a game. I'm like, at the end of the day, it's a goddamn game, you know? You can try hard and do whatever you need to do, but you're not gonna find me trying out in the game. I can take that try hard that I'm putting into this game and put it towards something else. And, get better success in my life is where I'm at right now. So video games aren't very fun in general for me. And that's the only thing that my channel is known for streaming, so I play games. Yeah. But when we grow up, we realize the world is much worse than we expected. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. And it pulls our happiness away. Yeah. Yeah. That's it. That is it. But that's also why we don't have that much fun playing games. I gotta say that I don't know. Back in the day, there was shit talking and things like that happened back in the day when I played games and I enjoyed them. But there were communities, there were clans, there was friendship, camaraderie. You would talk shit to the guy on the other team, but it would be kind of like a joking, jesting type thing. People never took things seriously, even the small arguments that you would get in rarely. Somebody would be like, hey, dude, chill out. You ain't got to be that serious. Exactly. There's less toxicity and all of that. It was kind of just getting one up on somebody, and it was, fun in literal games. Nowadays, it's just straight toxicity. And once somebody can't win with their toxicity, they throw in racism, they throw in whatever they can find. They don't even know you, but they're going to call you trash at the game. They're going to call you all this other shit. You know, they're going to throw out their memes. They're going to hit you with the who cares, things like that. And they're going to keep regurgitating as much stuff as possible because nowadays toxicity is considered funny. Racism is considered funny. Making people suffer is considered funny. Last time I played it, some nice person wished me cancer and he just repeated himself over again. Exactly. Their generation, the generation after mine, and then their generation that's after them are getting worse and worse and worse and worse. It's just is what it is. And as new generations keep popping out, they're becoming less disciplined. They're being less taught, and they're all wild, free spirited, and basically doing whatever the hell they want to do. And it's creating problems for the general public. But then when somebody tries to change something, everybody points at them and they say, well, maybe you're the problem. It's not my kid that's running around saying racist things and wishing people to have cancer and all of these other things online. It's you're the problem, not me and my parenting strategies and all of that. And it's crazy. Yeah, and people hate you for minor things. Exactly. And unfortunately, respect needs to be taught. Yep. And that's the thing. It comes from them getting the ability. Well, it comes from an unregulated environment, is what it is. There are cyberbully laws and things like that, but the cyberbully laws are only enforced when an issue happens instead of beforehand. Somebody says a whole bunch of toxic things, nobody cares. The police don't care, the government don't care, nobody cares until that person decides to, go and off themselves and leave this world. Then they want to go through and say, okay, now we need to do something about it. This guy needs to go to court. He needs to go to jail. He needs to be tried for bullying this person. And I'm like, we can nip this in the bud now. Stop letting these little children get online and tell people to go and kill themselves and tell them that they wish they had cancer and say all of these racial slurs and laugh with their buddies and all of that. Because I've talked to people of different cultures and it's completely different. I've talked to my white friends that are like, oh, that's funny. Don't worry about it. They're not actually being racist. They're just, kids. That's what kids do at their age. They run around saying things like that. They don't know what they're talking about. They'll grow out of it. And then you go to many other cultures and they're like, my son said what? And they'll go in and beat their son's asses. So you ain't gonna be online saying racist shit. As a matter of fact, get off of that system. You're grounded, or you ain't playing that shit for a while. But every race does have children that, just straight up let their children do whatever the fuck they want to do. They do whatever they want to do. They say what they want to say. They're rude to whoever they want to do. But unfortunately, there's just people that don't want to discipline and teach their children. The children run around being rude to people, saying things to people, then their children ends up getting fucked up, severely injured, severely hurt because they're unchained, unleashed, and then they want to go and sue and say things like that. It's like, no. Uh, oh no. Don't go there. I hate so much talk. They are just kids. My best friend's brother is just a terrible little being. He did many bad things. How's his parents respond? He's just a kid. Yep. You get that all the time. Oh, he's just being a kid. Or he's just being a boy. Or she's just being a girl. He's like, yeah, but your little monster is being a menace to society. He's being a nuisance. He's going places where he's not welcome. And the parent will just continue to let him until your kid gets either kidnapped, like and seriously injured, killed, some cases. Something bad happens to them. Then they want to act like the reparent and all of that. And I don't understand what happened. He was such a good kid. He was always going out and playing with his friends and all that. I don't understand why anybody would mean any type of harm to my child. And it's like people have been telling you for years that your child's a nuisance to society. He's been kicked out of public school. He's only homeschooled now. He goes out, he does dumb things. He's going to end up being a criminal. And he's going to be in jail or he's going to be in juvenile detention and going be transferred into jail permanently by the time he's 18. A kid stabs you multiple times. His parents, it's just a kid. He meant no harm. Exactly. And it's like, the things I've noticed nowadays, I mean, when I was growing up, don't get me wrong, there were fucked up cartoons and shit like that. But as a kid, I didn't think about or fathom what was going on in most of the cartoons and all of that, as there were kind of adult jokes hidden in the cartoons. Nowadays, if you look at some of the cartoons they have on the TV, it's like, holy fucking shit. It is full of fucking violence, bullying, and all kinds of other bullshit that they have on the channel for kids to watch. And I'm like, how the fuck are they letting their kids watch this shit? It's like, your child's not learning much. And then the people that allow their children to go on sites like YouTube and let them have their own tablet that they're on every day. So you need to understand that once your child figures out that any questions that they have about life, that they can just go onto the internet and, Google that shit to get an answer to, it's going to affect them. Instead of going to you and asking for help, they're going to Google the shit and try to figure it out on their own. Then when they fuck it up, then they're going to go to you for help. It's like computers are not made to raise your children. You need to raise your damn children. Get off the fucking couch and go raise your son. Fuck handing him a tablet and sending him to his room for hours. Talk to that motherfucker, educate that motherfucker. When he does something wrong, reprimand him appropriately, and do that. The children are worse than parents. In primary school, I didn't know how to stand up for myself. I was too kind and would say I experienced hell because of that. This experience taught me for the future, especially, we shouldn't treat all kids like innocent little humans. Worse than parents, I mean worse than grown-ups. Well, but I mean, those children learn that behavior from somebody. It's all of that malice and all of that toxicity and all of the other stuff are taught by somebody. If you hand your child access to the internet and they find some place that's toxic but is still alright for kids, guess what? They're gonna become toxic. The new trends and all of that are toxicity. If you let them on the internet and let them engage in that talking and all of that, guess what? They're going to become toxic. If you hear your son on the computer saying toxic things to other people on the internet, maybe go reprimand your son. Don't allow them to talk that way to other people, regardless of where they are. Yeah, most likely. And I'm not blaming the internet, because the internet is a very, very valuable and precious commodity. It's the fact that parents aren't raising their children not to do specific things. It's like drugs, for example. I'm not saying drugs are good, by the way. I mean, there are medicine, pharmaceuticals that are good for you and some that are bad for you, like heroin and things like that. But drugs, for example, if you teach your son that drugs are bad, drugs will ruin your fucking life and you'll become a piece of shit and go down a bad path. if you get addicted to some of the harder shit and all of that. And you teach them about the different types of drugs and shit like that, what to avoid, etc., etc. Then when your son or daughter or whoever the fuck you're raising, your child, is put into a situation, also you want to teach them about peer pressure. And when your son or daughter or child or whatever you want to call it again is put into that particular situation, they'll know that, hey, if I do this, I could be potentially ruining my life. And if they elect to indulge into that particular substance and abuse that substance, even though they are been educated and know that that substance can ruin their future, then you can take the appropriate measures and give them the appropriate consequences. Because if you don't teach your son about marijuana and somebody pulls it out and your son smokes it and you smell it on him, you're like, what is that? And he's like, I don't know. My friend brought this over to me and he told me to smoke it, so I smoked it. He said it wasn't harmful. You get mad at him, you ground him, all this other bullshit. Your son didn't even know what the hell marijuana was until his friend pulled it out and said, hey, smoke it. To him, it could be the same as blowing bubbles or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Because you never educated him on what it was, his parent. Simple education goes a long way. If you don't believe me, look at some places in the world. Hell, some places in America, and probably some places in the country that you live in. Not even having to look at the world to see where the less educated people who are, living in the slums and aren't able to move on with their life or get, upgrade their place of living because they're just stuck. Of course, internet is great, but as many, many things it can be used wrong and cause harm. Yep. Internet is good. Internet is bad. But I mean, if you use the internet responsibly and you're not doing anything or looking up anything, using the appropriate filters, the protection, and all of that, you shouldn't have to worry about the bad causes, the bad things that happen on the internet. It's again that malice and that, you not being educated on the things. If you're a guy and you're interested in females for the first time, you're going through puberty, you want to know what boobs look like and things like that, or what they do, or you're interested in the female body, and you go and talk to your dad, and your dad's like, I ain't got anything to do with that, go ask your mother. And you go ask your mother, and your mom, is all embarrassed and shit, and she's like, you won't have to worry about that shit till you're older. Well, you're going to be a curious kid and you're going to go to the internet and you're going to type in boobs and you're going to go, oh, so that's what she looks like under there. And then you're going to see what everything does and you're going to get a crash course in internet sexual health, which is a lot different from an educational source. Because if you have that average Joe saying, oh, yeah, because you'll get a bunch of different answers. You go to a forum when you ask your friend, hey, what are tits for on a female? He's going to say, one will say to suck on, one will say to play with, one will tell you, to feed the children and babies that they have, which will arise to more questions, will actually give you an actual educational answer. Dickheads on the internet, they're trolls, and they know that they can get away with lying to you. They're not going to tell you exactly what it is. They're going to tell you the worst answer. They're gonna tell you that shit that is sitting on the female's chest will fucking explode if you grab it and fucking squeeze it or some shit. And they're gonna troll the absolute shit out of you and mortify you for life. And you're gonna be afraid of going near any female. And they're gonna think it's funny because they're trolling you because they don't care. It's not their life. They don't have to deal with the consequences. Yeah, my dad didn't spend a lot of time with me, didn't teach me some house repair stuff, and now he's surprised or even mad that I don't know how to do that. He is exhausted, always after work. I respect that, but come on, to blame me for something I didn't get the chance to learn. Exactly. Exactly. And that is how it be sometimes. They don't ever think about, well, he probably can't even remember back being a child and not knowing a goddamn thing. And that atrophy comes with old age. And it's sad that it happens, but I mean, atrophy is one of the biggest things that causes a miscommunication between generations. Because the older people don't remember exactly what it is, to live in the past. Even though they'll claim that they've been through the experience and all of that, they don't realize that psychologically, anything that you remember from the past, especially the distant past, you're not going to remember but about 60% of the details. Even if it seems clear as day, like it happened yesterday for you, it's not going to be the same as how it actually happened. That is basic human psychology. The things that you remember are flawed. And anytime you look back in your memories, there's going to be a lot of flaws. You're only going to have about 60% accuracy for things that you vividly remember, even when it comes to traumatic experiences. The only thing that your brain really remembers from that is that it was traumatic and something happened that was traumatic. You might remember the, focused in bad things or some of the focused in bad things, but you're not going to remember most of, the other things that happen in between that. You just, that's how the human brain is. You don't remember most. And it's funny how some people are so confident in their memory and they'll tell you a story about it, but they can't really tell you the specific details. If it's a good day, I mean, they might be able to tell you the shirt that they're wearing. I was wearing this shirt, I was wearing these pants, I went to this place, I did these actions and all of that. And they'll tell you exactly what they remember. But if you ask them about, external questions about that, besides the things that your brain internalized, the happy things, they won't remember a fucking thing outside of that. Not a single detail outside of that. And it's hilarious. You can literally tell somebody to remember everything that's happening within a specific time span and then ask them questions over what just happened, and you'll still only get about an 80% memory. And that's if they have good memory. 80%. Average is about 60% of that. Good memory is about 80% of that. If you're above good, you're getting up towards the great memory and the what is it, photogenic memory and all of that. Not photogenic. What's it? That picture memory. I don't remember the term of it. That type of memory, photographic memory, is the only thing that pops to mind. Now that things change so quickly, your past experience can mean nothing. Exactly. I don't remember most of my past because, well, there really wasn't much to remember. I was always protecting myself from the past. And like the very, very distant past when I was happy go lucky and didn't worry about anything, I don't remember those times because, I was a child at the time. Every day was great back then. So there's no, me needing to remember that. I would let the days pass, go in one ear, and out the other ear. So when I was a really, 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 really young kid and I was happy go lucky and super sensitive and all of that, like I remember the traits, but I don't remember any of the times. And it gets very awkward when I run into somebody from my past. Like I know who they are and I know we were great friends in the past and some there's love stories involved with and things like that. They remember it And, they'll blush and they'll smile at me, and, they'll remember the playing that we used to do in the past. And I look at them and I'm like, it's basically like meeting them for the first time again. I have some affinity towards them because I know they're a good person and all, well, were a good person. And I know we used to flirt and I know we used to be happy when we hung out and it was good times and all of that. But then my, present self is like, yeah, I remember the good experience or the good feelings and emotions that I used to have towards you, but I have no memories of when we hung out. Like absolutely positively fuck all none. Then about middle school up until present day, nothing's really happened because I've always been, for the most part on guard and in a defensive, type of position. So there's nothing really noteworthy that, I can really remember. And it's not because I have bad memory, because a couple of things that were worth of note I can remember very good. It's just most things, there's no point. And it's sad because I run into people that I used to go to school with and run into all kinds of other people, or somebody will message me or add me on Facebook as a friend or some shit. And they'll send me a message, and I'm like, I know who you are, but I don't really remember you, you know? Those happy go lucky feelings of us hanging out for, 4 years in high school or 3 years in middle school or whatever. I don't remember. I know we were good friends, so, we can talk and all of that, but, I don't feel the same way about you from the past to now. You're just another stranger to me. I don't have the memories of those. And it blows people away. They're like, "Oh, how you be acting so cold to me, man? Remember, we're friends." And I'm like, "I don't know what the fuck you are, really." I just don't know. I'm not gonna treat you like you're my best bud anymore because I have no idea who you are. Things change, people change, I've changed. I don't have memories of my past like that. I just kind of hold on to what I feel about a particular thing. Like if you ask me about previous jobs, I remember the borderline emotions that I got from it. Whether it's a positive emotion, hey, I like that job, or it's a negative emotion, I fucking hated that shit, you know? And then off of that, I can pull up maybe a couple of stories here or there that happened at that place, but for the most part, the rest is just a blur. But either way, um, well, the sickening of the mist until we solidify with the astray and all the things that we were talking about the other day. I can't really say much on this. Because if you extend it for, the amount of distance to where you can basically see the entire tile and all of that, 10 seconds can be great. It can be needing an increase in time. It can be a lot of things. But then on the flip side of that, if we keep it closer together to where you can't see a lot, then 10 seconds might need to be reduced or 10 seconds might be fine. So until we get a range on the astray and all of that, I can't really give you a 100% type of thing. The top, again, I'd say, somewhere around the hag's trap, and that's just a suggestion. That's the first thing that pops into my mind that makes sense. Have an activation, range of like that, because that seems to be, right about what you need. Could be even larger, could be even smaller. The 3 by 3, I mean, is probably fine. And then the astray is all determined upon whatever the status effect gets set to in the end, and that'll have to be rebalanced to this entire special ability afterwards. And then we get into the crux of things, where I really get to tear that ass up, the killer perks. Dance. Every time I see that word, I always want to say macabre. It's macabre, but macabre always pops into my mind first. And that's because me and my friends, when we were little, used to say the word macabre just to piss off people. Most importantly, like English teachers and all of that. And all the people that like to correct your grammar and how you speak and all of that. So we would say macabre as we were reading and all of that, and it pissed a lot of people off. Fully aware that it's macabre, but it's just something from the past. I can't type well now. My bird landed on my hand. It's like, man, you're typing too much. Just sit back and relax. Also, hi. You haven't paid enough attention to me. Let's see. Dance macabre. When the survivor dies, all the drop pallets on the map become destroyed. Oh my. So when a survivor is sacrificed and or moried, all drop pallets on the map break. All the generators start regressing like they were kicked, so at a 100% regression rate. Gotcha. And all survivors' items lose charges wherever they are. But the items are locked in a chest, still can be found with charges. Hmm. I would one up you and also add in an additional fact that exit gates are reset to 0 when a survivor is sacrificed. However, nah, that'd be fun. Or at least exit gates start to regress back in, percentages as well. Like the new hemorrhage status effect, but on the exit gates, they start to regress as well when a survivor sacrifice. A regression's probably better than setting it to 0. Because I could see how that can be exploited, especially when you have like Blood Warden and things like that. On top of that regression rate, you can set it back to 0 by sacrificing a survivor and then keep resetting it back to 0 as opposed to just letting it regress. But I think that would be very interesting to make everything start regressing as soon as a survivor is sacrificed. Well, I guess it wouldn't work if just one survivor sacrificed, huh? Hmm. That's kind of strong based off of one regression or one sacrifice. So maybe, because even how this is, getting all of this effect off of one sacrifice, I think we should make this a staged perk. And on different stages, create more and more powerful effects. So one survivor gets sacrificed, all pallets on the map become destroyed. Or not all pallets on the map, Jesus Christ. All drop pallets on the map Actually, we can further define that. When one survivor gets sacrificed, all drop pallets on the map 20 seconds after they're dropped, or X amount of time after they are dropped, will break automatically. So you don't have to go around breaking every single pallet that drops. It will eventually break on its own. Second stage, generators start regressing at 100% regression rate, something like that. And you can swap a whole bunch of other things around, etc., etc. Hell, one survivor sacrifice, drop pallet, or general, well, item charges and all of that. I would take about 50% and add that to the drop pallets breaking and maybe make that phase one. Phase two, make the gen regression and then make the exit gate regression. And then make stage three something just super fucking crazily OP. Because essentially at stage three, the killer has technically won. And now it's just kind of cleanup mode. Whether the survivor escapes or not, it doesn't matter. So at like three, make it to where the pallet or the exit gate has to be open for like 4 or 5 seconds or something crazy. I don't know. Or delays that it opens, you know. After the third sacrifice, the exit gates aura can be seen within 10 meters of it. And then the exit gate's delayed for 30 seconds before it opens, or something crazy and along those lines. I don't know. Again, I'm spitballing, but you understand, like, maybe getting like a tiered system on that particular perk. I mean, it's fine how it is, but I think that perk can be pushed to actually become one of the more used perks if it has, a little bit of backing behind it. And there aren't a lot of perks that, as you sacrifice survivors, increases the killer's, strength. But as it sits, I mean, it's not bad. Drop pallets go as soon as the survivor gets hooked. That's for the first three hooks, obviously. Anything that's down goes boom. The generators start regressing. That's not too terribly bad. It's just kind of a chill perk. And the charges and all of that, they lose the charges for that, or the items. So what you essentially have is the first line, all drop pallets on the map become destroyed, is new. Gens start regressing. It's kind of like a pseudo ruin, and there's other perks that are kind of like it. And then the item charges getting lost would be like an added effect of Franklin's demise without the wait time. So I guess this technically can interfere with Franklin's demise and could technically not have an effect if Ruin is already run. So you definitely wouldn't want to run this with Ruin unless it's like a backup, like Pop, running Pop with Ruin. But it's like, I feel as though that can be taken to the next level. I don't know. If a survivor dies on the hook, oh, there's more. I didn't even read the second half of that. I thought that was the second perk. If a survivor dies on the hook, an area of 8 meters around the hook grants survivors an exposed status effect. with notification for them and grants the killer haste status effect 5%. This effect lasts for 5 seconds after leaving the area. That is Devour of Hope haste status effect. And the area around the hook providing the exposed status effect, I don't see that being relevant. In most cases, I really don't. Because, I mean, generally, when a survivor dies on the hook, that means nobody's going towards them or the killer's camping. Hmm. I don't know. I'd say the second half of this, I would probably just not include because I don't really see the relevancy of that. Again, Devourer of Hope gives you the haste status effect, exactly how that's implemented. And then the area around the hook, I don't see it being relevant in most situations. There are those occasional ones where you're running for the survivor and they die before you can get to them, but it rarely happens. Anyway, on to the next one. It's a minor obstacle for survivors. Yeah. I could see it. But it still just makes me kind of go, meh. There's also, with having this many things happening at once, you're definitely going to want to, add some sort of negative to the killer as well. Well, any killer that's, within that particular area. Because, I mean, it's nice for getting the haste effect and all of that for getting out of Survivor. But if you're a basement camping Bubba and you somehow run this perk, you know what I'm saying? They shouldn't be able to get, a huge amount of power without some sort of negative being an equivalent to that. Because this is quite a lot with no negatives. Maybe even bump this up to like a hex perk or something. Gotcha. I'll look at the comments after then. Yeah, maybe bump this up to like a Scourge hook or a Hex perk or something to incorporate all of that. It would be bad Hex. Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be the greatest of hexes. Again, the first line is kind of the crux of this perk. Is hooking a survivor makes all drop pallets on the map become destroyed. And then on top of that, it has the added effect of being a half effect ruin, just in case your ruin's been popped. Then the item charges, of course, comes as a good tertiary. But it's also like if survivors, if you're not running ruin or anything else with that particular hex perk, survivors won't really know that they're being affected with it. You can make it have a delayed activation like Devour of Hope, for example, and not to let the survivors know that they're cursed until it actually has an effect. So you can make this particular, turn this into a hex, and then make it to where it doesn't activate until the first survivor's killed to give you the delayed activation and all of that to where you can get use out of it. Or again, you can make it a scourge hook perk or something along that lines to where you have to pick at least specific hooks to get that effect on. So it can't just be activated essentially every time. You'll have to use perks to either go for scourge hooks or take that very, very, very risky feat to try and make one on time. Either or. I definitely wouldn't lose it as just a regular perk, though. There's a lot of effects that it has. Again, some are compound off of other already existing effects. Or perks, not effects. Perks. But I don't know. This particular perk can definitely be revisited and upgraded to go to the next level. I can feel it in my bones. I think you should, you could go through and make this perk great. Right now, it's sitting at a kind of a eh. It's like, yeah. I mean, I could understand the importance of it because of how your killer operates. But it's like, I think about this on other killers in the game, and I'm also like, uh, maybe, eh. I want to revisit all my concepts after I make 7-chapter concepts. Fair enough. Fair enough. So 3 more to go. Yeah, more than halfway there. More than halfway there. We'll move on to horrid writing. So I'm almost 2 hours in already. Horrid writing, when you put when you put a 2-time survivor into the injured state. When you put 2 survivors into the injured state, or when you put the same survivor into the injured state 2 times. Without putting him into the dying state the next time, or the 3rd time, gotcha. So it's the same survivor twice into the injured state. Gotcha. 2 times on survivor. Sorry, I must. Gotcha. All right, we're on the same page. So when you put a survivor twice into the injured state without putting him into the dying state, the next time that you would injure him with any attack, you will inflict the Withering status effect on him. After putting a survivor to the Withering status effect, you can't put another survivor to the Withering status effect via the perk for 60 seconds. 60-second cooldown. Gotcha. The bird flew away. Oh, he got his little lovin's and now he's gone. This doesn't work on a survivor who has been hooked 2 times or when an existing gate or exit gate has been powered up. See, this would go well with that suggestion that I made earlier about the Withering status effect, disabling all other perks for that particular person. Because you've already put him into the injured state twice. The 3rd time, you put a dying timer on them, and you can prevent them from using Dead Horde, or if they somehow have it. Well, no, it wouldn't count as an injured state again if it's off of an unhook, though. They would have to unhook and heal, which means borrowed time would wear off. I'd get rid of Metal of Man if they're using that, for example. Because the 3rd time that would give Metal of Man, they would get the Withering status effect. instead. How would this react with Metal of Man? Hmm. Well, I guess the Withering effect says that specifically you'll go down regardless. It bypasses everything. So Metal of Man wouldn't even be work or wouldn't work, so it would bypass it because the withered status effect specifically says that. In that case, I think Metal of Man shouldn't be used. It won't save you from withering, but you don't lose that perk. So, I mean, you would fall over from the withering status effect, but it wouldn't take that activation. So, next time that you would be put into the dying state, Metal of Man would still activate, technically. Hmm. And then this perk has no use against no Mither or any survivor that doesn't heal for that fact, or for that matter. If they don't heal, then this perk's not really that effective. Hmm. However, this particular perk also gets countered by Unbreakable, Boon Exponential, or any other perk that allows you to get back up fairly quick. Hmm. This effect is very good for body blockers, though. Because it only states that applying the wither effect cannot happen for the 60-second cooldown. It doesn't say that the perk doesn't implement or increment during that time. So if you hit everybody on that team one time via Legion, bam, 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 and then the other guys heal, and then you go back in for a second, round of that, bam, 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 you'll proc that perk, and then the third time that you hit them, within a minute each, of course, you have instant downs. But if you proc that, and then you play the game regularly, downing survivors and all of that, and hooking them, etc., etc., you can literally have two survivors that you basically leave alone till the end of the match. You focus on the other two, you tunnel them out, get them down, get them hooked as quick as possible. Once you get those two out, you can literally down one and wither the other one. I didn't mention it. You have to do via basic attack. Yeah, I was gonna say you might want to change that to basic attack because with any attack, definitely needs to be oh, just the withering attack has to be doing via basic attack. Oh, second time. Okay, the second time you have to use basic attack. The third time can be used via ability. Gotcha. So two basic attacks, and the third time could be an ability. I had that on paper, but doing hard edit times, some things were lost. Gotcha. So two basic attacks, and then, which still technically isn't that bad. It takes out the Legion chain that would make this perk disgusting. But it does open things up for like a nurse or something like that. Somebody who plays a very good nurse that can just teleport in and hit you with the basic. Or any other killer that has a very quick moving rate, like Sadako, who can teleport, Freddy, who can teleport, things like that. You can still achieve the same thing, just not as fast. Essentially, this is going to be the ultimate endgame perk, because if you prime that on somebody and then leave them alone, you can literally get that withered status effect towards the end when the last gen gets done. Because even if they have adrenaline or something else, it's not going to bypass the withered status effect. So if you run, for example, Rancor, and then you have somebody primed, you can expose one survivor, then the other survivor you have primed for the withered status effect. You can down him and wither the other person, and that's the end of that. So it'll be the ultimate setup for endgame, or an endgame build. With that Legion, or with that perk, Legion would be top tier. If it worked with ability, it's true. So perhaps certain chase time needs to be implemented. No, I don't think it does. I don't think chase time needs to be implemented. I'm just kind of trying to formulate a strategy in which people would use this. And I see it leaning heavily for endgame builds. Priming somebody for the Wither, then leaving them alone for the rest of the game. Running Rancor for when the gen's done, and have the Obsession primed, and then have those two left. You'll walk over and you'll put the other person into the dying state, the Obsession. So the Wither effect will not activate, and then the next time that you run across the other person, you can immediately give them the Wither status effect and they'll go down. Meaning that's easy cleanup GG for the last two people. That's a very disgusting game ender. It prevents you from using NOAD, which essentially will do the same thing for you, running Rancor and NOAD. You can literally just run over, knock him down, mori him, and then go and use NOAD to take out the other person. But the effect that during the game, you'll be able to use Horrid writing and prime those activations on different people is what makes it worthwhile. It's almost like a full game NOAD that you can trigger, like a nerfed NOAD that you can use all throughout the game, as opposed to strong NOAD that only works at the end. That is very disgusting. I don't think it needs anything added in like chase time or anything like that. But I mean, your particular killer does need something like this. Because, again, a killer needs at least one of three things. They need either gen pressure, map pressure, or chase pressure. Your killer is kind of unique that it temporarily checks things. If somebody has a stray, you have map pressure. If you have traps and things situated, you temporarily, well, I temporarily have map pressure. If you have traps down, you temporarily have chase pressure. And then that AoE attack that goes through walls will temporarily give you not necessarily gen pressure, but the ability to pressure gens in situations. Hmm. I tried to reduce his potential via cooldown and also disabling on the end game and after 2 hooks on a survivor. But see, turning it off for end game collapse would severely hurt this perk. Because during the game, you have to find a survivor and injure those survivor twice. So you have to find them, injure them, then let them go. And then let them heal. Find them, injure them again, let them go, let them heal. And then the third time you find them, you get them the withered status effect. So this perk either relies on you letting them go or you being an incompetent killer if you get rid of the end game collapse version of that. So I definitely would get rid of the exit gate being powered up. Heck, I would get rid of the survivor that's been hooked times as well, or hooked 2 times as well. Well, nah, I'd keep it on the survivor, or disable it for survivors that's been hooked 2 times. Because to be fair, depending on what killer you're running, you could finagle that into the ultimate killer. I could see that being disgusting on some killers. So yeah, survivors that have been hooked 2 times can stay, but definitely get rid of when the exit gate's powered up. Get rid of that particular line, and this would be a very good end-game perk. During game, I mean, if it comes down to it, you can use it. Like if you hit a survivor and one of his buddy gets in the way and he gets away and heals, or you get like gank squads or something like that. This would be very good for that particular situation, the where you can just keep injuring people and then downing them and trying to get those hooks and push through. However, again, the crux of this is the end game potentiality to just clean up a match after that and apply a huge amount of pressure to survivors. Mm. Well, now that I've gone over, well, this particular perk, the only question I have is for this particular perk, how are you going to scale it? Are you going to decrease the time that the withering status goes in from like 60 to all the way down to 45 seconds? Or are you going to make the number of times you put them into the injured state? Like, what's the scaling going to be on this particular perk? So I completely forgot. Hmm. That's the only thing I really see that can be scaled is the seconds. Oops. Since 60 seconds, it should be the info. Yeah, definitely don't go. Oh, be right. Bird poop on monitor. Oh no. All right. Well, pretty sure that is the bird telling you that you're going to pay attention to him, damn it, and get off that damn computer. So yeah, I guess 60 seconds there on scaling will take care of that. Death is on its way. Do not dare to cross its path, Anonymous. As always, I'm eager to hear your opinions about this idea. This chapter is inspired by the 3 Inches of Blood song, The Phantom of the Crimson Cloak. We'll look at these. About dense macabre or macabre. It makes it much less effective against base campers. This perk will have a requirement that 3 different survivors need to be hooked at least once in order for this to activate. Mm-mm-mm-mm. Mm-mm-mm-mm. The thing that I see, actually, now that I think about that, having the 3 unique survivors hook there and things of that nature, when you're using that particular perk, you're not going to want to activate it early on in a round. I mean, you want to sacrifice survivors as quick as possible, but, the activations aren't going to matter early in a round. Unless you somehow make a survivor drop like every pallet on the map and then send him on his way. But that would take a lot of time to get every pallet on the map out of the way and make a survivor drop all of them. Hmm. And if somebody does face camp, that means the only value that they're going to get out of this is gen regressing. But if they're face camping, it's not going to matter because the survivors are going to be actively working on gens while he's face camping. The item charges and things like that are probably going to be used up before that 2 minutes finish and that survivor dies. The area on the hook of 8 meters isn't going to do anything because the killer's face camping. So the only thing the killer's going to get from this particular perk is 5 seconds of haste or 5% haste. So they're going to be moving, what, 4.69 meters per second for 5 seconds. So they've essentially, if they face camp with this perk, they're getting a little over 1 extra meter added to their added to how far they can move in that 5 seconds. So this particular perk in and of itself is kind of designed against anti-face campers, and I don't see face campers actually running this particular perk because all they get is a 5% haste and they've lost the majority of their generators. pallets aren't going to be thrown because, well, it's going to be off of the first survivor that you down. So yeah, maybe you'll lose a loop or two worth of pallets, but every other pallet of the map's going to be still up and golden. And if a survivor elects to fall into the face camping strategy and goes down and all of that, I mean, it's kind of par for the course. It's their fault for trying to go for an unhook on a survivor that's being face camped. So you actually don't even have to bring that requirement of 3 different survivors needing to be hooked once. Just because of that specific purpose. They get nothing from face camping with that perk. So it doesn't require that future proof. Got it. Yeah. I don't think it actually requires it because they get nothing for face camping against it. And if they bring that perk and decide to face camp, it's kind of a what are you doing, man? Type of situation. So I think it's fun. So yeah, if you keep it how it is, it's fine. If you use a tiered system on survivors and things like that, as long as the tiers are set up to where it's anti-face camping and things like that, it'd be fine as well. But yeah, it's good. And then horde writing is the due to the bleed out. I also had to edit horde writing because, as usual, I forgot to mention a pretty important thing. Horde writing won't work when you put the same survivor into a dying state. This perk has to only work when 2 times previously you injure a survivor with your basic attack without him going down. So not mentioning the fact that survivors can't be put into the dying state pretty much makes this perk overpowered as hell. But what would boost those tiers? Maybe hooking different survivors. Maybe this is the way. Well, I mean, it didn't have to be unique survivors or anything. Well, I mean, if we talk about it's based off of survivors being sacrificed. So to get different tiers, you have to sacrifice survivors. So as long as that is the basis of the perk, then they have to sacrifice survivors. So it's kind of anti-face camping anyway. Just make the first tier something that isn't scalable to you know allow them to continue to face camp and get a victory that way. An example would be, let's say after a survivor dies, all uncompleted gens are set back to 50%, for example, or set back to 0%. Why not we go somewhere crazy? When a survivor sacrificed, all uncompleted gens are set to 0%, and that's after the first survivor dies. That would allow the killer to take somebody, sit them on a hook, and then face camp them, and it'll reset the generators that the survivors are working on now back to 0, allowing him to go out and find another survivor, and he knows he has 44 to 80 seconds before a generator gets completed, possibly 33 if all 3 survivors are on the same gym. So he knows he has time to go and interrupt the survivors. That would be a bad thing to do. But a good thing to do, which wouldn't do anything, is, using the same as the survivors die. When the survivor dies, all drop pallets in the map are destroyed, the generator starts regressing, and item charges, are lost, for example. None of those things matter if you're face camping because the item charges are already going to be used. Unless it's a med kit, then whoop, whoop, whoop. It's kind of what it is. The generators won't regress because they're being worked on. And then the pallets, only from the first thing that they do, isn't going to do anything. Uh, Dance Macabre means dance of death. Do you think in the future revisit? I should keep the name or the translation name sounds better. Um, I mean, I like the translation name definitely. A lot better than Dance of Death. Hmm. Yeah, Dance of Death. I don't know. I like the name. Again, if behavior decides to adapt it, they'll do whatever they want to do. Some things, you can't change. Behavior's gonna go in and they're gonna fuck shit up or fix shit if they deem it necessary. I like Dance Macabre better though than Dance of Death. What did I say about horde rating? Oh, yeah, the basic attack and all of that. I don't think that Dance Macabre, or not Dance Macabre, I don't think that horde riding is really OP. At least if you look at it as an in-game perk. During the game, I mean, it kind of punishes body blocking and things like that, but it also, the counter to it is just run the killer, you know? If you get put into an injured state the first time, run the killer and escape, possibly, but the second time it happens, you might as well, you know, run the killer all the way to the end and then get put into the dying state and then take that hook state, you know? The whole point of horde riding is the killer can't down you in order to get that effect. As soon as they down you, that's it. The perk resets and it's basically gone. So it's really kind of like anti-body blocking and things like that. Yeah, but it's just for personal info. And there is death dance item. Not it reminded me. But I think it would be too abused if dying state wouldn't change anything. Yeah, if the dying state portion wasn't put in there, it would be completely, absolutely, positively broken. Because that would be you hit somebody to injure state and they escaped you. It basically guarantees that the second time you get them, you down them, you hook them. If they are taken off the hook and then healed, which you would just wait for that to happen, walk over, hit them, and then they would bleed out and fall over for their second state. After that, if you're running a Mori or anything, they're just dead to rights. It's actually quicker to activate Horde Riding in that aspect than to chase that person in their injured state and try to get through the dead hard and all the other bull crap you have to go through there. So yeah, the dying state definitely is what balances this perk out because it can't be abused because you can't put them into the dying state. But that's also the same reason why I said it's the ultimate endgame perk. If dying state wasn't there, it would be a good during game perk. But dying state makes it endgame because you only want to activate this perk essentially one time. Unless, you have a lot of people body blocking, then you're going to go for multiple activations, obviously. Because they're going to body block you, run over there, run away, and then heal. But if they know you have this particular perk, they won't be too apt to try and body block you and do all of that craziness. So if you have like well, I guess like you can't run a backpack build and run the Rand core in this as well. Unless you do like because you need mad grit. You'd have to do like mad grit and agitation and just drop the 1.8 seconds you get from Iron Grasp if you want to run it like that. So I guess it might work, but it'd be very awkward to do. But that's if you got a lot of body blockers and you can figure out if they're a gank squad or anything like that. Gank squads don't like Starstruck. And then, finally, I need a nap. We have a Rattle of Bones. You hook survivors 50% faster. That sounds amazing, but you're literally going from 1.5 seconds down to 0.75 seconds. That don't sound right at all. Try that math again, sucker. You're going from 1.5 seconds. No, that's 0.75. Yeah, I was right. From 1.5 seconds to 0.75 seconds. That's right. After hooking a survivor, you snuff out all boon totems. Grant survivors who have cleansed or blessed a totem incapacitated status effect that lasts 8 seconds. Well, that's gonna have to be a score chuck, obviously, because hooking somebody activates some sort of curse that affects everything, meaning or mostly boon totems. So that's definitely gonna have to be a scourge hook, not off of a basic hook. But god damn, snuffing out all boon totems. They spend 14 seconds blessing that totem, 28 if it's a hex totem, and to have you down somebody and immediately throw them on a hook and it just whoop gone. That's just kind of super mean, like F you the boon totem users is what that is. The perk itself isn't even like that useful when it comes down to it, but it's kind of just like a middle finger to anybody that uses boon perks. Most matches that I play, I don't generally run up against booner or don't have booners on my team. So that particular perk isn't necessarily super useful except for when you have like a heavy boon totem team. Hell yeah. The old booners. Well, they could repair the gin in that time. This is true. They could get a lot of a gin done in that time. I say that every time. Kind of pisses me off. Like if it's the beginning of a match, the people that literally run to just a random totem that they come across and they put a boon down and I'm about finishing my gin and all of that, and they're just now starting it, maybe like 20 seconds in, pisses me off beyond no end. Because I'm like, I'm almost done with my gin. You could have been almost done with your gin. Somebody's running their ass off right now, and instead of actually, getting two gins worth of pressure on the killer, you've put a boon down that nobody can use, and now you're 60 seconds off of completing a gin. That person generally goes down. We have one gin down, and then the killer immediately goes out looking for, where the boon's been put down. Where the boon's been put down, they look for the gin that's in that area, and they find the next, gin that needs to be pressured. They snuff the boon totem, kick the gin, or if they have ruin, they just chase the guy off of it, snuff the totem, and it's gone. And 60 seconds have been wasted on travel time, putting up the boon, finding a gin, jumping on the gin, and working on the gin. It's not actually 60 seconds, but it is an upwards of like 30 seconds. I'm over exaggerating. And it just pisses me off when I get a gin done and I'm like, all right, we should have a second gin popping anytime now, and it never happens. And I'm like, why isn't the gin popping? And I hear boom, boom totem, and I'm like, depression. That's the sound of depression, is a boon totem going up. Kills me every time on the inside. Oh yeah. And they do it every time at the beginning of the match. They boon up a totem, and I'm like, why? Nobody can use that. At least it's a nice night lamp. That's about what it is. So, like, who's gonna use it? The guy that's getting chased by the killer that's about to go down? And then when you go and save him and you, pull them off the hook, you have to run across the map to the boon if you want to use it. No, you're gonna heal them underneath the hook, and then you're gonna go about your business, which makes it useless in its positioning. And then the thing that pisses me off the most is the people that at the beginning of the map, or beginning of the game, they run to the middle of the map, and they boon somewhere in the middle of the map. And they will search and search and search all the locations they know of the totem until they find one in the middle of the map. They'll put the boon down and all of that. And then the first time the killer goes through, they're like, oh, boon totem. And I'm like, ah. The bird occupies my hand once again. He likes you. I don't know. It's just depression. And when I hear people talking about boon totems are too powerful, they need to be nerfed. Behavior, get rid of boon totems. I'm like, behavior. Boon totems are not any type. They don't need any type of balance changes or anything like that. If you remove them, don't remove them because your community and all that's complaining about them. Remove them because they're a hindrance to the game. People who boon totems just make me want to just lay my head down and just cry because so much time is lost. This is like they're a good addition to the game, and I'm glad they're there, but it's like, come on, man. When I don't, because it prevents me from having to waste a perk slot on healing when I have a boon person. It's just like if I know you have boons, I don't have to run that healing perk, and I can run something else. Because I know you're going to put one up. And I know it's going to be at the worst spot possible and the worst time possible. But if I can get at least one use off of it, it's kind of a okay. But I don't know. I just never understood the people that complained about boon totems being too powerful. An iridescent one or tournament plays or players or something like that, I guess I could see boon totems getting in the way of tournament play. All you gotta do is just ban them. And the regular play, where you're not playing competitive Dead by Daylight, boon totems are just a pain in the ass because they don't do much. We had boomers, now it's time for booners. Hell yeah. Public test beta. They had it to where when a killer snuffed a totem, it would break the totem. They changed it because, well, you couldn't run NOAD because people with boon totems would literally just run back and forth booning up every totem. And as the killer went and snuffed them, they would literally be breaking their own totems that they would be using for, power and things like that. And it was kind of ridiculous breaking your own totems. It'd be different if NOAD spawned in a random totem place, like it came back as like a rekindled totem. Then it wouldn't matter if you, broke all the totems and all of that. But making the killer break their own source of power is kind of like, eh. Thrill of the Hunt became garbage. Any perk that relied on totems, Hex Undying, for example, where you could see the aura of people on totems, got outclassed very quickly. Thrill of the Hunt, anything like that. NOAD became a problem. Like all of those became a huge issue in actually using things because you were snuffing out your own things. There are some things they could do the better balance boon totems. I'm not gonna lie, but I'm not also gonna say anything on what they could do to make them better because I honestly don't want them changed. Because at the rate they're going, we're just getting basically free perks for everybody incorporated into boon totems. So I ain't gonna say anything because I like that. Eventually, we'll have like leadership or something like that, or prove thyself on a boon totem. That's what I'm waiting on. Something worthwhile. I don't know. I am feeling kind of lazy. So what I am going to do is I'm going to pull everything off of this video and I'm going to post it onto this video because I'm lazy. And that will be the end of said stream. We go here. And then we change this to part 2. Just like that. And then we go to this, and god damn it, it cuts off the thing, so I actually, god damn it. I can still pull that. I'll find a way to cheat. You can't stop me. Do 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 do. I just gotta go back and grab this. Like that. And then we go here. No. God damn it. There we go. Get rid of this restream. a Tui. There you go. Title, part 2, all of that good. Creations, that's good, that's good, that's good. Good enough. Named and done. As long as you don't copy Google images, we'll be fine. I know, right? Mandy talks, more like Mandy claps. I still can't believe that. Notice how she disappeared after banning like 50 something people, and then she's just gone. It's like it was the behavior Deb's wife, and he pissed her off, and she's like, all right, I got you. Say bye bye to about 50 people. They're getting fucking banned for breaking terms of service, and she just got on, clapped people for about a week or two, and then she disappeared. Makes no sense. If you're gonna moderate something, make sure you stay consistent at what you moderate. Also, what I should do at the beginning of everything is I should go to my channel. Actually, I can't because it shows the live stream. I don't think I can actually. No, I actually can't do what I was going to do. Well, that sucks. Oh well. Either way, that is it for the stream. That is, what are we at? 2 hours and 40 minutes, plus the like 3 hours from yesterday. So hopefully within like the 5 or so hours, probably like 4, because I did go over a couple other things. 4 hours of content, I at least inspired you, or at least one idea out of all of that. As always, supplement your lifestyle and take care of yourself. Peace.